want to come back to this site that I've mentioned a few times I have that seems to come in and out of the Google index. So I shared you this graph where it just disappears and then it comes back with another update, or Google reassessing what they did with one core update. So there are a few things I want to dive into because I learned something new, and just by looking at the data and talking to other people in the industry, I realized a few things. So first of all, the ups and downs, they don't really align with the Google updates. So there was this big May core update with Google and the September core update, and they somehow correlate, but not exactly. So the site is a little late to be affected by the core update. So it might not be the core update itself, it might be like adjustments happening after. Or maybe Google is just not telling us the whole story about exactly when a core update is done, which I think is very likely. But the most important thing that I see now that I have a bigger picture and more time frame to look at in Google Analytics is that the sites seem to come back stronger every time. So that's pretty weird. It looks more like I just messed with the Google Analytics tag and lost like 80% of the tracking, and like the traffic was there, but I just didn't track it, but that's not the case. And I also do see the same swings up and down in Google Search Console. So it's not what's happening here. But the funny thing is that if you sort of draw a line from the beginning to where the site is now, it looks like it's been growing pretty well. And you can say I didn't really lose any traffic, other than you can say it sort of was switched off for a while, but it came back stronger, just like if it had been alive all along. And the thing is, it's way too small yet for me to monetize it. I guess I could smack some historic ads on, but it's still so small, only has like a few thousand page views per month, so I wouldn't even bother making a few cents from it. So you can say it didn't really take anything away from me. So that's pretty interesting, and it looks like the site is back now. And but there's more to this story. So of course I've been trying to figure out what exactly is going on and why is Google all of a sudden deeming it out and in of the index. So I showed these graphs and these numbers to a few of my friends who are way smarter than I am when we're talking AI and machine learning, and two different folks told me the same thing, that this in their eyes is exactly how machine learning would throw you in and out of the index. To them, it was just a school example of how machine learning works. It will all of a sudden reassess all the data and throw you out, and now there's a new parameter that nobody really knows what is, but that the machine learning picked up across a big data set, and now all of a sudden you look more like a site that shouldn't be in the index. That could totally throw you in and out. And I saw the same comment from Glenn Gabe. If you don't know Glenn, he's a very respected SEO who's been around for ages. And he also shared this tweet and this graph here telling that this is definitely machine learning throwing you in and out. So Google is struggling with this for sure. And the thing with machine learning is that there's probably nobody who knows exactly which factor or which thing to fix, or what's the silver bullet, or what did this site do wrong in order to get in or out of the index, because it typically works like you have like a huge data set that you want to analyze with machine learning. Could be the data sets from the Google quality raters. Let's say they gave Google a new list now of 10,000 sites. So these 5,000 are great, these 5,000 are not so great. And now Google is just feeding this to the machine learning algorithms to figure out what exactly characterizes these sites and what characterizes these sites over here. And there might be some new data or something that it picked up on, could be anything really. It's just looking for patterns. So my best guess is that nobody really knows. But one thing that I want to emphasize here, because there are a few things that we know. I've talked to quite a few people who saw these swings in and out. And all the sites that I've seen do this, they are all like pretty new sites with less than, let's say, 5,000 page views per month. So it looks like once you have some authority established, once you have probably some good backlinks and a good deal of traffic, and Google is able to trust you more, that you sort of moved up the ranks, and Google now wants to allocate more attention or server power to actually dive deeper and keep you in the index. And now you will probably also see yourself ranking much faster for these new articles. So I think this is a problem for new bloggers for sure, which really sucks, because when you're creating your first site, It's just awful to experience something like this. And I really feel with you guys who are building your first site and now you're seeing stuff like this, because it totally sucks. But I think it might be part of the game. Who knows for how long, but at least right now, if we're building a new site, it might get in and out of the index like this. But the good news is that, at least in my example here, it looks like it's coming back stronger than it was actually growing all along, just without being switched on. It's like Google did keep an eye on it, but all of a sudden it comes back and it's just at the level that it would have been if it had the traffic all along. So I want to talk more about what I did on this site in order to try and get it back, because obviously I was trying to fix this and not just leave it in the grave. So I kept publishing articles during those first swings, and then I was just pretty demotivated when it all of a sudden it disappeared again and I stopped publishing content. So I don't know, in my little data set here, I don't think it plays a big role. At least in my case, it doesn't look like it made any difference whether I kept writing new content or not. Excuse me a second, I have a coffee machine that keeps peeping over here. Let me just shut it off. Oh, and sorry about all the mess in the background, but I just came home from visiting a blogger friend who's also really successful, and this is also some of the stuff that we talked about, so I just wanted to share it with you guys right away. So the other thing that I did do on the site was to move it to premium hosting. So it was still sitting on a pretty cheap hosting company and not the fastest plan you can get. And I bumped it over into VPX, where I have my bigger sites. It seems like it is benefiting from that. It definitely improved the load time. Whether that is a huge factor, I don't know, but it would make sense to me, because I do think that Google is just not allocating as many resources to smaller sites. And I think that's why we're only seeing these swings for small sites. They're just not big enough yet to really matter to Google. So moving it to a faster hosting company will definitely save some resources on Google's end, because it'll just load faster. It's easier and cheaper for them to access it. So imagine they need to cap off somewhere for millions of sites that they don't want to look at. They will definitely put that threshold or that bar on what to cut off and what to actually look at and index according to how much computing power it will require them. So making it a little easier for Google, having a better load time, I think that does matter. And you will also see this make a difference in Google Search Console. There's this tab called, I think it's called mobile usability, where you will many times get in the red or be moved out of the green area if your site is loading really slowly. So this could also mean that you need to get your site on a much faster theme. I still use Astra. There's a lot of great themes out there, but Astra is a good example of a really sleek and fast theme that just works. Something I didn't do on this site, I didn't go in and add a lot of internal links. I probably should have done it, but I've talked to other folks who did it, who saw the same swings, and it didn't really make a difference. So it's not because I don't think it would matter. I think it does matter. I just didn't have the time to do it, or I didn't take the time to do it. So if you are seeing something like this and you don't find your site coming back, or if you just wanted to see what you can do to your site, I have a few tips that I think you could do. So first of all, check that you are actually losing around 80% of the traffic, and check if it lines up with some of the Google core updates. In my experience, these swings happened like a week or two after a bigger core update. And then also check that your Google Analytics tag is actually firing, because it would probably look something like this, like a total drop in traffic, if that's what's happening. Just make absolutely sure that everything is set up correctly. And then you should also check if you lost probably all your featured snippets. So we've talked about this before. Few bloggers and YouTubers are referring to this as a featured snippet ban. It's nothing that Google has confirmed, but definitely something that happened. It happened to one of my bigger sites as well. So maybe that's what's happening, but many times that will cause you a 20 to 30% drop in traffic. But if you are getting a lot of traffic from featured snippets, it could look somewhat like the graphs that we're seeing here. It could definitely be 50% of your traffic if it's a pretty new site, if you're doing a killer job of getting all these snippets and all of a sudden they're just cut out. And then you should also look at your niche in Google overall. Check if some bigger competitors, some bigger sites are starting to go after the same queries and phrases that you are targeting with your site. Or maybe you just had a handful or a few new sites entering the space who just happen to write about the same stuff that you are doing. Because if there's a lot more competition, you might see drops, but you will not see like a sudden drop on a specific day. There will more be like a slow decline over longer time. So if that's what you're seeing, definitely look into whether a big site or smaller sites are entering your niche. And then I would also advise you to spend good time finding some really underserved topics. Just spend a lot of time just finding like a handful of 5 or 10 articles that are extremely low competition. No matter how much traffic they're getting, just something that nobody wrote about where you could flesh out a pretty good article. Because if Google has nothing else to show, I just think you could get a little more attention, because I guess they want to show something there. But I might be wrong on this. I've just seen success, and I've seen a lot of new sites rank faster over the last couple of years the more underserved content they have. So it's not like you absolutely need it to get off the ground. You can also get off the ground targeting stuff that other people already wrote about. You just see slower growth. So I think this could also make you more interesting in Google's eyes. If your site looks anything like this, put in the comments what happened. Did your site get back? Did any of your swings align with the recent core updates that we have plenty of? If you don't know exactly when they hit, just Google it, Google core updates. There's so many people reporting on this, exactly when they happen and what they are called and so on. So yeah, that's it for today. See you guys.